Hey everybody, Nick here. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm making another autism explanation video. This video is going to be 5 more things not to say to autistic people. Number 1, you don't look autistic. Autism does not have a look. Unless someone is wearing a t-shirt or has a tattoo that says, "I'm autistic," you can't tell someone's autistic by looking at them. Now, I think that people say this because some of the stereotypes of autism are typically white dudes who are socially inept or a nonverbal child. And so, autistic people who are female or people of color might not be viewed as autistic because they don't match those stereotypes. But there's no way to look autistic. That's just not how autism works. Autism is unrelated to someone's physical appearance. It has to do with how your brain works and how your nervous system works. It has nothing to do with your face or your physical appearance in general. Number 2, so what's it like being autistic? Now, at first glance, this might not seem like a bad thing to say. Actually, it seems kind of intuitive. When you meet someone new, you typically ask questions. That's how getting to know someone works. But when you use this approach for autistic people, it can be problematic for 2 reasons. The first, although most likely unintentional, by asking this question, you're reducing the person to their diagnosis. Now, admittedly, being autistic is an important part of any autistic person's life. It's an important part of my personality and how I interact with the world, but it's not all that I'm about. I'm not just an autistic person. I'm a whole human being with thoughts and emotions and experiences that are unrelated to autism. The second issue that comes from asking this question is how you might misinterpret the answer that you're given. If a non-autistic person were to ask me what being autistic is like, and I were to tell them based on my unique experience, that person could mistakenly think that all autistic people think like I do, and that just isn't true. Autistic people are individuals, just like non-autistic people. No one person has a complete understanding of the autistic experience. So, if you want to learn about an autistic person, you can try making the questions a little bit more personalized, like, what's being autistic like for you? Or how does autism affect you specifically? Or something like that. That way you don't reduce the person to a diagnosis, you don't make any incorrect assumptions, and you still get the information you're looking for. Number 3, were you vaccinated as a kid? I honestly can't believe that this vaccines cause autism myth still exists. For anyone out there who doesn't know, this myth started because back in 1998, someone by the name of Andrew Wakefield made a study that suggested that a certain MMR vaccine, measles, mumps, and rubella, that this vaccine caused autism in children. Now, this whole study was flawed, and the only reason it existed was to make this one vaccine producer look dangerous so another vaccine producer could produce more vaccines. It was all about that money. And once this study was released, thousands of other studies with at least 1 million subjects tried to replicate Wakefield's findings. And all of them failed. Now, science is repeatable because, the laws of gravity don't work one day, then take a vacation for a week. So if no other scientist and researcher could replicate Wakefield's studies, that means that Wakefield's study was fake. And in 2010, the study was retracted, and he also lost his medical license. And so there is absolutely no evidence that vaccines have ever caused or ever will cause autism. Now, I think a reason why people also think this is because autistic characteristics tend to be obvious around the age of 2 years old, which is around the time children usually first get vaccinated. But it's just a coincidence. One is completely unrelated to the other. Vaccines don't cause autism. Number 4, stop acting autistic. Now, this one usually happens when a non-autistic person is with an autistic person and they start to behave in an obvious manner which appears to be weird or inappropriate by non-autistic standards. Like let's say this person is stimming a lot, or they're excessively talking about their social interest, or any other obvious autistic trait. When you say this, it gives several messages. One, it implies that being autistic is a bad thing, which it isn't. Being autistic is just another way of being human. It implies that non-autistic behavior is the only correct way to behave, which it isn't. And also it implies that you can just choose whether to be autistic or not, which you can't. Sure, maybe we can modify how often we STEM or how often we talk about our special interests, but we can't just stop being autistic. Even if we don't actively show it, we're still going to be autistic. We just might hold it in for a while, but eventually we're going to have to be who we actually are. So don't say this to us. And number 5, you're not really autistic, you're just faking it. Now, this often comes about when someone is an autism self-advocate. Like, for example, Chloe Hayden. Chloe Hayden is a well-known autistic self-advocate. And many times, non-autistic people have accused her of faking her condition. And I could never personally understand why anyone would assume that someone is faking their diagnosis. But I recently saw a TikTok by someone named Alyssa Ablon. I'll include the link to that TikTok in the description for this video. But basically, her explanations for why non-autistic people or non-disabled people don't believe disabled people is because unless you actually know someone who has a disability or some other condition, the only information available to you are media-based stereotypes. And these stereotypes were made by non-disabled people and are often inaccurate and dehumanizing. So when someone sees an actual disabled person, instead of actually taking the time to get to know the disabled person, they instead get offended and angry. They're like, no, that person's not autistic. This is what autism is because I saw it in a movie. That person is faking it. And they will defend these stereotypes tooth and nail instead of actually learning and listen to people who are actually autistic. And that just shows a blatant lack of understanding of autism, and it gives the message that the non-autistic person somehow knows more about autism than the actual autistic person, which makes absolutely no sense at all. Generally, when someone tells you that they're disabled or they're autistic, they actually are disabled, autistic, dyslexic, whatever. They actually do have that diagnosis. And so instead of getting angry and claiming that they're not really disabled, listen. When someone like me tells you that they're autistic, please listen. Don't follow the stereotypes. Listen and learn. And those are 5 more things not to say to autistic people. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.